wasn't incredibly intuitive. So we are working on dev. Go ahead and get dev spun up if you've already got it ready. If not, now's your chance. We're gonna go ahead and switch over to our screen. I'm gonna take a drink really quick. All right. So welcome to week 8, day 16 of Pnpt Live. We are crushing it. We are crushing it. We're almost 33% of the way through, which is pretty baller if you ask me. Uh, this should be a short day. Again, I forgot to update this. I think today will be a short day. I'm not sure until we get through the material. I don't know how long it's going to take me to teach. So we'll see. I think around 45 minutes, so we should get done a little bit early today. All right. And we're going to go ahead and just get right into it. So we've got a Capstone machine. Today we're covering dev. It's another Linux machine. Next week, we'll be doing capstones as well. So we've got 5 machines. The first one was a freebie. The next ones we're going to kind of go through individually, I think. We'll see how next week shapes up. All right. So we've got our handy dandy Kali Linux machine. I'm going to CD just to my base folder or my home folder. That way you guys are on the same page. All right. Dev. Log into dev. Get it spun up. You're going to do the same exact thing as last week. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. No promises. I'm going to drag this over. Hey, big screen. Look at that. All right. So your password and your username, once you get it booted, is going to be root and password of TCM. All right. You can see I logged in up here. Root of TCM at the top. I can point to it. Root TCM. Password, log in. You come down and you run this command, DH client, and then you get your IP address. All right. Same thing. Root, TCM, DH client, just like that. And then IPA, just like that. All right. So that should be that. I have an IP address of 192.168.138.137. So I'm going to go ahead and run with that. The first thing we're going to do, I'm going to come back to just the big screen, not the big screen. We're just going to nmap that. So we're going to do nmap of all ports -A-T4 of 192.168.138.137. While we're waiting, I'll look at chat. So somebody asked, what does DH client do? DH client does DHCP. So it's going out and looking for an IP address via DHCP and automatically assigning that. All right. Okay. So we've got our scan back. And we're going to go through this kind of like we did last time. Let's open up a mouse pad. And I'm going to delete our notes from last time. I'm going to get rid of the shell that's in here and the hashes that are in here. And we're just going to have a notepad in here. All right, so let's notate the things that we have and that we see. So we see port 22. And for port 22, we've got open SSH. We're going to go ahead and just copy that information. Now, again, with SSH, do we have any interest in SSH, especially from a CTF perspective? Typically, no. So SSH for now is going to go on the back burner unless for some reason it was like the only port open or something along those lines. So we're going to kind of scroll through and keep going down. Port 80 we're familiar with. So we got port 80 with Apache. So we might want to search this Apache information here, right? So we've got port 80. Paste that. And we also have some operating system. OS is Debian. We saw that. So we know we're running on Linux. And I'll show you where we saw that if you didn't see it. So we've got Apache HTTP 2.4.38. We could go out to Google and search this and say, hey, is this version vulnerable to anything? That would be part of our enumeration process. We can see here that it's a Debian base. We are getting a web server called Bolt with an installation error. So if we go to this page, likely we're going to see some sort of installation error for Bolt service or Bolt CMS or whatever it might be. We don't know what's sitting down or behind there. All right. And we come down and we've got port 111 open for RPC bind. Now let's talk RPC for a brief second. RPC can be used to be enumerated, or it can be used to enumerate a machine, I should say. However, it's not something that in my career historically has provided a lot of information. It doesn't mean it's not something that you should check out or you should look into. I'm just telling you, it's kind of like the port 22s of the world that I don't think there's a lot of information to pull from RPC unless it's a CTF box and it's very enumeration heavy. In this instance, we're going to skip over it because I can count on one hand, probably one finger, the amount of times I've actually used RPC on a CTF, 0 times on a pen test. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and skip over that for now. If you're interested in learning about RPC enumeration, you can Google some tools and practice on this machine for RPC. All right. Now, in here, we've got an open NFS. What is NFS? Well, NFS stands for Network File Share. Network File Share. So you can think about this as a file share. Similar to Samba, there's some sort of file share that's out there, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at that because that could be very interesting for us. So we're going to say we've got NFS on port 2049. So 2049, network file share. I can type. Okay. All right. And then we see also 8080, which is typically HTTP. So we come in here and we've got 8080, another Apache 2.4.38 Debian. You can see it just says potentially open proxy connection, and we've got a PHP page on here as well. So that is interesting. Let's go ahead and throw that on the enumeration. So we've got this PHP. PHP can be vulnerable, by the way. So depending on the version of PHP, this could be a vulnerable version, and we could use that to get into a machine or something along those lines as well. Yes, this is file system, network file system. I think of it as a file share. That's where my brain goes. All right. So the rest of these are nothing we have to worry about. This RPCs and everything around this has to do with this NFS. So we don't have to worry too much about the mount or the nlock manager in here. Okay. So as of right now, if I'm going after this machine, I'm going after known ports in known objects. We could, or known services. We could enumerate the rest of this, but if we're looking for best case scenario, low hanging fruit, easy win, we're going to want to chase these ones first. All right. So if we run into brick wall, we can come look at 22. We can come look at RPC info. We can come look at some of these other things down here. But in this instance, right now, we're going to chase what we think are the low hanging fruits. All right. So we've got 2280, 2049, and 8080 that could be our suspects. So really, we're not going to chase this, not chasing this. And so we have port 80, 8080, and 2049. So let's do a little bit of multitasking, shall we? I think like you're going to learn as you go how to multitask certain things. And there's going to be ways to automate things as you go. So think about this, like we might be able to run if we have port 80, which this was a installation error page, could be interesting. We've got 8080, which is just a PHP info page. We might want to do directory busting on both of these pages and see if there's anything else extra behind the scenes. Directory busting can take a while. So why don't we run directory busting on both of these while we also enumerate the network file system or the file share that's out there, right? So we're going to look at that and we're going to do some multitasking. And when we do multitasking and why it's so important with ethical hacking, say that you get 1,000 IP addresses. Let's try to do the math here. Let's see. I'm gonna try to do math on the fly. It might not be great. Say we've got 1,000 IP addresses and we're on a pen test for 40 hours. All right. So we can look at 25 IP addresses per hour. If you break that down to 60 minutes, we get like what 0.41 IP addresses per minute. So if you're looking at 25 IP addresses in an hour, you really don't get a lot of time there. We could also do 60 divided by 25, and you get to look at 2.4 IP addresses, right? Like, or that's the amount of minutes you can spend per IP address is 2.4 minutes. Do you think if I gave you an IP address that you would be able to look and validate everything about that machine in 2.4 minutes? No, probably not. So what we do on a pen test is we're going out and we're automating a lot of our processes so we can do multiple tasks at once. We might be running a Nessa scan while we're looking at other info. We might be chasing the low hanging fruit first to see what we can find. So you might be given a scope of something like this where you have 1,000 IP addresses in a week to look at it, and you're really chasing down this 2.4 per, or 2.4 IP addresses. All right. So think about that, or 2.4 minutes per IP address. Sorry, getting the lingo confused. But something to think about when you're doing that. You can automate a lot of things. Like we run, for example, our emails at like 8 o'clock in the morning. That will go out at 8 in the morning. The Nessa scan will start at 8 in the morning. And guess what? I'm maybe still in bed because 8 in the morning Eastern time is not my time zone. So if I'm still in bed when the scans are running, that's perfect. Work's already starting for me, and then I can have some information. So when I get to my desk, I already know where to start attacking when I start working. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these things. So we're going to use our handy dandy FFUF, our FFUF. All right. And we're going to do this against both 137 on port 80 and 137 on port 8080. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. I'm going to give you a chance to type this out. We're going to hold right here. All right. And I'm going to take a drink. But we have, again, our word list. We're just going to use our directory list medium, and we're going to fuzz on that. This syntax should not be new. You should have this in your notebooks already. This should auto-populate if you're following along with the same Kali Linux that I'm using. You should be able to auto-tab complete, change your IP address to what's necessary, and fuzz on this. All right. I'm going to go ahead and just paste that in chat for you as well. It should look something like this. And apparently it only copied part of that. So let me grab this again. I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Let's try that one more time. Okay, that's the command. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to run it on port 80. I'm going to paste it here. And we're also going to run it on port 8080 because those are the two web ports that we found. We can also go out, by the way, and just do basic enumeration. So while we're running this and we're doing some extra scans, why don't we go out and just look? Let's take a look at 192.168.138.137 on port 80. And we'll also take a look at 192.168.138.137 on port 8080. So in this instance, let's make this a little bit bigger. What do we see? Well, we see Bolt. We don't know what Bolt is, but we can probably figure that out because bolt.cm is a website. If you look down here in the bottom corner, it says, hey, this Bolt documentation goes to bolt.cm. So we can look and see what the heck Bolt is and if there's any vulnerabilities attached to it. You could see that our current folder is var www.html. If we saw this on a pen test, this would be a finding because this is information disclosure. We should never have error messages disclosing, or verbose error messages, really is what they're called, but we should never have them disclosing a path like this. Same thing with what we see here. We have this PHP version page, and this can easily provide information as well. Like, look, we have a Linux dev kernel. We know the kernel now that we're running on. I'm going to go ahead and just copy that. And we're going to put that in our information because we can have kernel-based attacks that we can run and use for escalation. We don't know. Maybe there's a kernel-based remote code execution. This tells us like a lot of information and detail that's in here. We can scroll through this. PHP info page can be really good for looking and seeing what settings are set up. Like if there's local file inclusion, you'd see that on here, or you could see that on here. If there's file upload capabilities, you could see that on here. There's a lot of information on the PHP info page that's full disclosure. If we saw this on a pen test, and I have seen this on a pen test before, we would report this as a finding. All right. So here we go. We've got these two here. We're running our brute force on the back end, or directory brute force on the back end. One's done, two's done. So we can come and take a look at these. I'm going to pause here. We're going to take a look at the mount, and then we'll come back and take a look at the rest of this. So let's go ahead and open up a new tab. Make this bigger. All right. So when we want to look at the file mount or the NFS, we can look with the show mount command. We could do a -E because we're going to export the file share and we're going to see what the export looks like. So it'd be show mount -E 192.168.138.137 or whatever your IP address is. All right. And we can see that we have a SRV/NFS. So we can mount this and take a look at what file share is in here, what's in this file share here. So let's take a look. Or we can mount this. So we'll do sudo mount. Actually, let's sudo make dir first. And we're going to make a directory of mount mnt of dev. We're just going to call this dev because this is the dev machine. And we come in here. I'm going to enter my password. And you can see now that we're going to sudo mount. I'll leave that up there so you can follow along if you're behind at all. We're going to do attack T and we're going to do NFS. And we're going to say NFS is our type, 138.137. And we're going to say SRV NFS because that was the file that we saw or the share that we saw, right? Or folder that we saw. So we attach that to our IP address and we say mount dev. That's where we want to mount this, is our newly created dev folder. And we're going to go ahead and mount that. If your command returns nothing, that is great. All right. So what we can do now is we can cd into our mount dev and we can ls. So I'm going to leave that up. I'm going to take a drink again and hopefully let you catch up really quick. All right. So all we see in here is a save.zip file. Well, we have a zip file. Why don't we try to unzip it? So we can come in here. We can just say unzip save.zip. And crap, we can see that there's a password for this. Let's try a blank password. And it says no go. You've got ID RSA and a todo.txt in here, but we got an incorrect password, so we don't have any files to unzip at this moment. So with that in mind, we can crack this. We can do password cracking against a zip file. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and use a tool called fcrackzip. So if you go sudo apt install and we do fcrackzip, just like that. Mine's already installed, but go ahead and hit enter on that and let that install on your machine. No zip to John, no John the Ripper. We're going to use fcrackzip. All right. And so once you've got it installed, we're going to go ahead and run this. So we're going to say sudo fcrackzip, and we're going to give it a -v to say we want it to be verbose. We're going to give it a -u to say we want to unzip. All right. We're going to do a dictionary attack, which is a capital D. And we're going to do a -p for file or string to file. So that's just going to parse this out. And we're going to say user share word list. And we're going to use Rocky on this one. And then we're going to do that against save.zip, just like this. All right. And we hit enter. And within seconds, it found the password. The password is Java 101. Java 101. So we're going to go ahead and store that down because remember, passwords can be reused, not just in CTFs, though it's very likely that a password can be reused in a CTF. They are also very much reused in the real world. So it's always good to remember the passwords that you found along the way and try to use those again later because you never know where they will work. All right. So we've got Java 101 as our password. So let's go ahead and try to unzip this again. We're just going to unzip save.zip. We're just going to type in Java 101. Sudo sudo unzip save.zip apparently. Uh, and we're going to say Java 101. All right. So we unzipped. Apparently, there's permission denied. Didn't realize. So from here, we can go ahead and take a look at the files. So we just ls. We see we have an ID RSA, which we can use to connect to SSH. Hey, look, it's starting to pan out. We have SSH open. We've got an ID RSA. Now we just need to maybe find some credentials or an account for that to connect to. So let's go ahead and take a look at todo.txt. If we cat out todo.txt, it says, okay, figure out how to install the main website properly. The config file seems incorrect. That could be a hint for us. The config file seems incorrect. Update development website. Okay. Keep coding in Java because it's awesome. And we get JP. So let's go ahead and copy JP because JP could be a username. We might put like passwords and then possible slash known usernames. All right. And so we got JP in here. Now we have this SSH file. So why don't we just come in here and try like, look, we can try SSH-I. We can do the ID RSA that's in here. And let's try like JP at 192.168.138.137. See if it connects. We'll accept the fingerprint. And it's asking for a password. So we only have one known password at this point, which is Java 101. So we can try Java 101. And we get nothing. Womp womp womp. All right, so we'll just hit Control C. We don't have any other known users. We could try, I guess in theory, we could try root, but I'll tell you that that's not correct. But that would be the only two that we could try at this point. All right. So we'll go ahead and clear that. And now we're kind of at a stopping point. We've got an ID RSA file. We've got a user maybe, a password maybe, but we're kind of stuck otherwise. So we need to enumerate the websites and figure out what we can find in here. So let's start with port 8080. What came back? Or let's start with port 80, I should say. We've got a public, we've got a source, we've got an app, vendor, extensions, server status as well. So we can navigate to all these. If you're doing your due diligence, you're going to look through these all, okay? So you're going to want to look through all these folders and files as well. So we've got the bolt here. Let's go ahead and try public, see what that does. Public just gives us an error message, although this would again be a finding on a pen test because this is a verbose error page. We would just want to see like a 404 page. So we would screenshot this, write this up as verbose error as well. All right, and that uh, it looks like it redirected to public bolt user first. We could also do like, I don't know, just jam the keyboard and see what comes up, and the error page would be the same as well, even without the redirect. So this would definitely be a finding on a pen test. We could try source or SRC. We get a site and just a PHP extension. This is nothing that we can deal with here. So um, we see this, and remember last time I was talking, and actually let me show you app because this will be a better example. Okay, so last time I was telling a story about a pen test that I was on where I was enumerating a subdomain, and on that subdomain, it looked just like this. It was a directory listing, and literally, not even within a folder, it was just a file that was out there that was a zip file, had the entire source code of the website, entire source code. It had the passwords, username credentials, SQL database credentials, everything. All right. So this is realistic. You may see this on a pen test. So we can dig through this, go to like cache and see what's in here, dig through these. Just for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and actually just kind of go to the config section. And this is where a hint was given to us, right? He said, hey, let's see if we can scroll back up. He said that the config file seems incorrect. The config file seems incorrect. So we got to use all the hints that were given. If the config file seems incorrect, let's take a look at the config file. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to save this. Or we can just open this. Let's see if it'll open with mousepad. We'll just open it on the desktop. We'll save it. All right, so let's go navigate, open folder, and we'll go to our downloads, and we'll find that file, which is config.yaml, and then we're going to open with mousepad. All right, so we've got these the SQL database. All right, and give me 1 second. Okay, so gotta keep the chat chill. Anyway, so we have this database here, and we can see that we have username of Bolt. So we're gonna go ahead and just copy that because now we have a new username, and we're gonna put that into our possible known username. We've got a password of I love Java. So this is a SQL database. I'm not sure yet how we would be able to connect to this. We don't really have a way to connect to this quite yet. So we just have the database credentials, and it looks like it may not be set up all the way. So the password is I love Java. I love Java. All right. So we've got our couple passwords now. We could come in here again and we can try. Let's try it. We'll just give it a YOLO attempt. We'll try JP and we're going to try this new password. So I'm just going to paste this new password in here, see if that works. If that doesn't work, we can also try Bolt with both of these passwords. So we'll Control C. We'll try Bolt. Now, I know this is incorrect and they're going to be incorrect, but I'm trying to show you the methodology to some form of what I would be doing. Okay. And Bolt, that's not going to work. We're going to try I love Java. That's not going to work. But anytime you get a new username or you get a password, you want to go check those out again and see if you can find any additional way in. Every little piece of information is a clue, and you're trying to use that clue in order to advance further. All right. Okay. So now we have that file. For the sake of time, if we were doing a pen test, we would go through all of these files. Okay. If we were doing any sort of CTF, even we would go through these files. We would investigate, see what's in here. We would go through database if there was anything. There's a Bolt database of the size of 0. We would try to figure out if there's any other information that we can figure or find in these files. So you would do your due diligence again and make sure that you're going through every single step in every file and you're really doing a good enumeration process on this. All right. So right now we've enumerated this. We would also go through the rest of these. Like we would go through vendor. Let's see what vendor does. Vendor has even more information in here. All right. So there would be a lot of stuff to get through. We would go through bin, look through this, kind of dig through all this data and see if there's anything of interest. Maybe you would do some research on the vendor folder or the Bolt software and see like, hey, what is this that's running? What are these files in here? And are there any directories or files that would contain sensitive information? That could save you some time so you don't have to dig through these and really look for information in places that you're just not going to find it. All right. So we've got vendor, we've got extensions. All right. And we've got server status. So the person saying that the permission settings are the issues or is the issue on the IDRSA file, that's incorrect. If you had incorrect permission settings on your IDRSA file, it wouldn't even let you SSH. Okay. So, and yes, Alec is here. Alec is the creator of this machine. So, He indeed is telling the truth, chat. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at port 8080. And when we go and take a look at port 8080, we're going to go ahead and we're going to kick off the attendance. So with that, today's attendance code is going to be let it go. All right, let it go. Go ahead and run the attendance code on the screen. All right. So let's go ahead and check out now the other brute forcing. So we've got a directory of dev, and I'm seeing a server status as well, and that's it. So let's check out dev. All right, we're brought to Boltwire. Boltwire says, welcome to our tour, and that takes you to boltwire.com. Join our mailing list, also takes you to boltwire.com. Let me just go ahead and make this bigger. So we have a welcome page, we've got a register page, a setup page. Let's see what that is. This page is missing. We've got an admin page. Access is blocked. We can log in, though we don't have credentials. Maybe we do. Maybe we have credentials with what we found. We could try logging in with a couple of these accounts and passwords. We have a search feature, which we can come in here and search. And then we've got, looks like a print feature as well. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at Boltwire. So one of the enumeration steps or processes that we would do here is we would say, hey, we have this Boltwire, and we'd add this to our list, right? We'd say we've got the Boltwire application on 8080. And now that's in our notes. We come in and we say, okay, is there a Boltwire exploit? Well, there is one. There's two, it looks like. There's one for cross-site scripting for version 7.10. And we don't really know what version we're on. Maybe it tells us somewhere in here. Maybe we can view like a page source. Let me see. We can do version, see if I can. No, I don't see anything there. 6 point, try that. Not seeing anything there either. I'm just trying to check and see if the version, sometimes the version's in the source and it would tell us. We might be able to find the version that's running from some of the files that we found as well if we needed to do more enumeration here. It could be in here somewhere. So we've got a couple of things that we can look at. First of all, it says Boltwire exploit has local file inclusion and it has cross-site scripting. Cross-site scripting, again, isn't something that we are very much interested in. Not for a CTF. If this was like a pen test, maybe. If it was like an external pen test, maybe we're interested. Not really, unless we can get some sort of stored cross-site scripting and we can abuse that feature to steal credentials or to steal some sort of cookie or session. But in this instance, for a CTF especially, we're really not interested in it. We may have unrestricted file upload capabilities, so that's interesting. 4.10 and prior, so that's from 2014. Given that this box is newer, this came out in 2021. We're going to try and go with the 2020 version of the exploit. So we'll take a look at this first. We've got what's called local file inclusion. All right, so let's take a look at that. Basically, what is happening here is we've got this. It says we got LFI, and here are the steps to reproduce. We need to use an HTTP GET request and browse to a page while authenticated. We're not authenticated yet. We're not logged in. What is this doing? Well, we are not sanitizing user input properly here. So if you think of a Linux machine and we just do a couple dot dot slashes, we're going back to as far as we can go for a base directory, right? In this instance, they are escaping as many folders as they need to get back to the home directory, and then they're going to look at the Etsy password file. Now, if we are a regular user, we should be able to read the Etsy password file that will at least tell us something like this, maybe who the users are on that machine. The other thing that we can do is if we are perhaps a root level user, we may be able to find the Etsy shadow file as an example and maybe get some more information out of this. Okay, we can abuse this to look at sensitive files. All right, so all this is going and doing is going back to the root directory, and then we're going to the Etsy password file. So we need to be an authenticated user to do this attack. In order to do that, we need to authenticate. Well, we've got two options. We can log in and try with our passwords and usernames, or we've got a registration feature. Let's just like do a test. I'm going to do test one and then just a password of test. Look what happens. You're automatically registered. You're logged in as test one. While logged in, we can come in here and look at what features we have. Like we can try to go to admin, still blocked. Setup page is missing. We can go to the search feature. Now we could search, maybe the search. Let's see what happens when we search. There's a query here. Like maybe we could get cross-site scripting off of this. I don't know. Um, Maybe we can get like SQL injection. We can come in here and try like injecting SQL and seeing if something changes. It could be a blind SQL injection. We're not really there yet at this point. So we're just looking at what we have in front of us. Outside of this, we already know that we have a potential exploit, so we're going to go ahead and try to run that. So I'm going to go back to the welcome page, and we're going to go ahead and turn off attendance. All right, and now let's go ahead and try this attack. So we're going to copy this index.php part. We're not going to copy the bolt wire part. This is just an example. Ours isn't in bolt wire, it's actually in dev. So we're going to keep it on dev instead for the directory. We're going to paste this, hit enter, and look at that. We've got our Etsy password. So when we search through this Etsy password, we can see some users that may be in here. For example, we've got the root user. We've got a user down here of www-data. Maybe that's what the website's running under. If we scroll down to the bottom, that's typically where our users are. And we're trying to look for something that's like out of place and usually starting with 1,000. All right. So starting with 1,000, we have John Paul. Look, he's got a home/John Paul folder. Ah, could that be JP? It sure could be. Let's go ahead and put Jean Paul in here. All right. And now we have a possible known username. Well, this is a known username. All right. So we have that information. We can try to see what level of permissions we have. Like again, if we come and try to do the Etsy shadow file, you're going to see we get nothing back. So we're not running as root. All right. Okay. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and now look at this again. We've got new information. Let's go ahead and try with that new information. We've got a user, a known user of John Paul. All right. And we can try to log in with that user. Now, before I do that, I do want to talk about something. We can try to brute force this password. So the ID RSA file can be brute forced. If you have a weak ID RSA password, you can crack that password. All right. So depending on what the password is for this, we could crack it. Now, if we're using like a word list like RockU, if we search like cat user share word list RockU, if we cat that out, but with a grep, and let's say we grep on the password. I'm going to give you a little bit of a hint. It's I love Java. We'll copy that. All right. We saw before like Java 101. Java 101 exists in there twice. It's a 101 and a 101610. We could try this password and see if it was crackable. Just because it's not crackable with RockU doesn't mean it's not crackable. It's just something we're looking for quick wins, right? But an ID RSA could be cracked, and it's a strategy that we could use. We could also grep on like pasta for the fun of it. But you could see that that I love Java wasn't actually in that rocku.txt. So let's go ahead and take a look at John Paul, and we're going to log in now with I love Java. Hopefully, maybe not. Copy this one more time. Did I screw it up? Oh, I did type in the wrong username. That's where I screwed up. It's not Gilles Paul, it's Jean Paul. All right, now we're logged in. All right. I think you guys love it when I mess up. All right, so here we go. So now we are Jean Paul. What are the first two things that we do when we do privilege escalation? And we're going to get into privilege escalation in like 2 weeks. We did a little bit of it last time, though. What did we talk about? We looked at the history. We might come into history, right? Nothing in here in history, but we can try sudo -l as well. And with sudo -l, we can actually see that we have the root capability to run with no password as sudo user bin zip. User bin zip. So that means that if we typed in sudo zip, we should just be able to run it without any password protections. And sure enough, we can. All right. So we can run this without any password protections. What does that mean for us? How can we abuse this feature? Well, I'll show you. So we're going to use a tool called GTFO bins. If you just go to Google and you type in GTFO bins, just like that, you'll be brought to a website, gtfobins.github.io. All right. It's going to take a second to load. I'll make this bigger and take a drink while this is loading. Okay. So this GTFO bins is a great website. This basically allows us to look at the different types of Unix or Linux binaries and that we can use to escalate privileges. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at this and we're going to say, hey, I have the ability to do sudo. So I'm going to click on sudo. And that starts to filter out what we have available to us. Now we can type in zip up here, but we can also just search for what capabilities we have to do escalation. So if we have the ability to do sudo zip, which was all the way at the bottom, we click on zip, we can come in and we can say, hey, what's the sudo capability? All right. So you just click sudo at the top. It'll bring you down here to this anchor. And it says, if binary is allowed to run as super user by sudo, it does not drop the elevated privileges and may be used to access the file system, escalate, or maintain privilege access. That sounds wonderful. And then it says, hey, here's how you do it, by the way. All right. So we just set a variable here and then we just run this. That looks fairly easy. Let's go ahead and try to do that. We're going to copy this right here. We're going to paste the first one in. We're going to go back. We're going to copy the second line. We're going to paste that in. And we just get this little pound symbol. All right. We got an sh pound. So what are we doing here? We're going to go ahead and just take a look and say ID. And we are running as the root user. So we could cd to root, do ls, cat the flag.txt, and congrats on rooting this box. All right. We are in. We are in. This is still very, very basic stuff. All right. We're going to get a lot more complicated and advanced. So this is again the initial capstone for what we've learned thus far. We're going to get into Linux and Windows privilege escalation. It's going to get a lot harder, a lot more complicated, but a lot more fun. All right. So we are good to go. What did I say? I said 45 minutes. It's 12:45. I didn't plan that, but it worked out very well. So we're going to go ahead and end early. We're going to start our AMA a little bit early. And welcome back, everybody. Or I should say I'm back, everybody. Welcome. Today's drink of choice, I did see somebody ask, is a Powerade Zero Sugar. Blue Edition. Blue Edition. Can we explain the last process again? Yeah, so I'll come back to the screen. or have the screen come back to me, I guess. Look, anytime we have sudo capability, this is a very, very, very common CTF technique. All right. Especially for beginner level boxes. Anytime you get into a box and you see sudo dash L, you see a no password on a binary like this, uh, not always is it game over, but a lot of times it's pretty much game over. Because we have this GTFO bins, because we have these repositories to come through, we can look at all the capabilities. Like when we talked about sudo, look at all the sudo privilege escalation binaries that exist. There's a ton of them. There's a ton. So zip is just an example. All right. All we're doing is looking for the binary that we have pseudo privileges for, and then we're reading about it. We're doing some information here. So we don't have to like memorize these to heart. We just need to know, hey, I've got this privilege escalation that I'm seeing with sudo. Let me go check GGFO bins because they have built this wonderful repository for us. So we come in here and look at the capabilities that we have with sudo for this. So in this instance, we just have to do these two commands to actually get this shell. All right. So all we're doing, by the way, is abusing the sudo zip feature. We're calling this environment variable here of this make temp dash u, doing etc host, and then we're just doing a couple commands here to get the shell out. All right. I'm gonna come back now. So question on the Rocky word list. We use it only. I only use it in CTFs. My theory is if you can't crack a password with a Rocky word list in a CTF, it's probably not meant to be cracked. All right. Usually, I'm not saying that's always. I'm just saying majority of the time, if you can't crack a password if you can't crack a password with Rocky, then you're probably not meant to crack that password. You're maybe meant to find it somewhere else. Any plans for a wireless pen testing course? I would love one. We had somebody submit one and then kind of fall off. So what I would want it to be better than what the submissions I've seen are, though. Like, I want to go beyond just like WPA2 and WPA2 Enterprise. I kind of want to look at like Bluetooth and other things. So if we're gonna do a Wi-Fi course, we're gonna do it right, or a wireless course, I should say, not just Wi-Fi. What do I like more, chicken tenders or chicken nuggets? Chicken tenders. Although the spicy chicken nuggets at McDonald's slaps for sure. How realistic is Mount NFS in non-CTF engagements? It's possible. Like you're going to come across open file shares like that, or open NFS, open SMB. Like I have seen it before. I mean, it's definitely possible, especially on an internal network. On a external network, if you found that, I would be very, very, very surprised. So, someone who's new and always surprised by additional tools, how do you keep track of exploit utilities? It seems easy as long as you know where to find the exploit. Yeah, so you're seeing years of experience, right? But I'm only as good as my notebook. So I mean, like, yeah, I know by memory GTFO bins, but like I have a repository of notes that says, hey, like, here's how you do Linux privilege escalation, or here's how you do Windows privilege escalation. If I could say or speak words today. But you could go out to Google, and if you just Google Windows privilege escalation checklist or Windows privilege escalation checklist, whatever, if you Google that, you should be able to find what you're looking for. And people have curated checklists and curated notes. So as you practice and work through these things, you're going to get more familiar with where to look and what tools to do. But you need to be enumeration heavy throughout your career. So like enumerating these machines on your own and going in and going through all the files and the details, like I'm showing you what is capable of being done that's curated because I know the answers. So we're doing it in 45 minutes. If I was to go look at this box and do this on my own, it would take me hours. It's not going to get done in 45 minutes. All right. So anybody that you see like solving boxes on stream and they're getting it done within an hour, most likely they already know the answer ahead of time. So when you're enumerating the web pages, do you take screenshots of each page or only the pages that produce usable results? We just take screenshots of the findings or usable results. We don't need screenshots of every page. We're going to end today a little early as well. We'll end at 1:15. We've got a team our first team building thing today. We're just doing a Friday Jackbox party thing. So I'm actually looking forward to that. Have I ever used a kernel exploit on a pen test? No, I haven't. Like again, like we talked about last time, the chances of doing privilege escalation on a pen test, they don't really come out to what you're seeing here as much as what you're going to be seeing in like the Active Directory type style things. Now, is not mean to say you don't need to know how to do different types of exploits, but yeah, if you're going to run a kernel exploit, if you ever do run in that situation, you better ask your client before you run that because a kernel exploit absolutely can crash a machine. Hey, thank you. Very excited. SkillBridge took a long time to get through. So if you're not tracking and you're a military member, there's a SkillBridge program that helps you transition. The nice thing is they'll allow somebody to intern with us for 6 months and they'll pay for the salary. So we're very excited to be in the process and start hiring people from the SkillBridge program. Thanks for the YouTube video you just put up. I was using Eraser with the default method. I didn't know you could change the formatting type. Yeah, absolutely. Eraser is a great tool. If you guys aren't tracking, we just launched a YouTube video like right before the stream, maybe an hour before the stream on this actually I have it in front of me still. I got this out of a thrift shop camera and it had no files on it, but we did file recovery and actually found quite a few files on it. So just because you're deleting a file doesn't mean that it's always deleted. Even on SD cards or different types of flash drives, it doesn't just go away. This is more true for spindle disk, but even on SSDs, this can happen. So it's something to look into for forensics, and then knowing how to wipe over that is important as well. How do you decide what to disclose in a report? Would you show a screenshot of all usernames, password, or a blurred image? We never show passwords in a report. If we say, for example, find a bunch of passwords on a pen test, we'll blur those out in the report. Like we'll show like maybe the first letter just to show compromise. But we will also send over a password list that is like password protected because the report doesn't always just get shared internally. The report might get shared externally as well. So we want to make sure that we're not disclosing users' passwords and getting in hands where maybe it's disclosed to somebody else. And so that's really the reason why we don't share that. And then the client can go in when we do share the passwords, and they can make those users change their password, and they can also put those passwords in like a deny list, so that way they can never use those again. Thoughts on the Cisco breach? Is social engineering becoming more important than custom payloads? I think social engineering's always been the most important part because even with phishing, phishing is social engineering, right? If you can target somebody specifically based on their habits, that's even better. If you can call somebody and get them on the phone and get them to reveal information, that's great. Um, we're doing a pen test this week actually where we compromised somebody through a fish, and by we I should say our pen test team. They did an excellent job this week. Compromised somebody through a fish, and then the account was behind MFA. There was no bypass for the MFA. They had it pretty buttoned down. So guess what? They called the guy and said, "Hey, I'm from IT. Can you help me out? I'm pushing a code. Blah blah blah." Got the code, got logged in, and completely owned that account. So social engineering is, I would say, very, very important. You can have all your things buttoned up. You can have a great password policy. You can have multi-factor authentication. But if somebody gets phished and somebody gets, then gets vished in this sense, voice phishing, then what can you do in that situation? Your human aspect is the weakest part, of course. What's your favorite Netflix series at the moment? Um, I don't know what the last Netflix series we watched, and this was recently, was The Witcher season 2. It had been a while since we had watched that. Um, Favorite Netflix series of all time, I think, was the Punisher. I've got the little Punisher right here. I loved the Punisher version that they ran. I'm so sad that they canceled it because they were in a little tiff with Disney Plus, but I thought that that was a amazing, amazing series. Why do I drink this? This isn't healthy. It's water with sodium and like a little bit of flavoring. Like I don't know what to tell you. There's nothing in here. It's just water with salt. Yeah, the salt's not great for your hypertension, but other than that, this is probably one of the healthier things you can drink. I've already purchased the PH, Windows Prevask, Linux Prevask, OSINT, and external pen test playbook. How would you get access to the VOD since Twitch removes after 60 days? Unfortunately, there's nothing that we can do if you bought those individually. The access is only for those who purchase the PMPT with training, or if you have the all access pass, then we have the VOD access there as well. I use a what type of keyboard do I use? Is the question. I use a Black Widow Chroma. If you do exclamation specs, you'll be able to see all the stuff that I have as well. So, but Black Widow Chroma, I love it. I've had it for years. It's absolutely fantastic, and hopefully, it lasts me my entire life. What are your thoughts on DEF CON? Uh, I'm not a fan of DEF CON, if I'm being honest. I think it's like one, there's too many people. So the way I explained this to my wife recently is that I have what is called a social bucket. And there's so much like social interaction that I can have before my bucket is full, and then I need to get away from people. So like for me, DEF CON is a lot of people in one place. Now I don't mind Vegas. Vegas is great. Like it's one of the best places to do people watching and just to see the craziest stuff that you'll never see elsewhere. And so for me, like when I am interacting with a bunch of people at DEF CON, I kind of like I don't know, it kind of overwhelms me to a point like I need to get away. But also, I can be a very impatient person, and DEF CON is very much line con in the sense that you're waiting in lines all the time, waiting in lines for merch, waiting in lines to check in, you're waiting in lines to go to a talk. And for me, that's just like seems like a waste of time. So I like the smaller conferences. I like having less people. DEF CON is something that we do every other year ish, and it's like it's enough to fill up my social bucket in that sense for at least a couple of years. Plans for the weekend. I am attending a birthday party tomorrow. I'm going out to dinner tonight, and then I'm going on a pretty important sales meeting here in a couple hours. That's why I'm all dressed up. So, what type of jobs are the most popular in cybersecurity today, as per you, and what do you recommend? Uh, Look, the I think like the cool jobs are the hacking jobs, right? But that's not the job that we need the most. The jobs that are out there, if you want to call most popular, would be blue teaming work. We need more defense people than we need offensive people, in my opinion. We have more blue team job openings than we do have red team job openings. We need people to help defend against all these attacks that are going on around the world. So it's something that if you're really interested in getting in cyber and you want to get a good foothold on your career, while I love teaching red teaming and this is great to learn, it's great to learn for your blue teaming career. So if you're interested in defense, I think defense is a great way to get in and something that's drastically needed in this world. What do you do when you come across a technology you don't know during a pen test? Google. I mean, that's really it. Google it, research it, try to understand it, and understand what flaws or vulnerabilities it might have. What are you learning recently? QSA mostly. QSA and Python, I think, is what I've been learning the most. The QSA training I'm wrapped up with. I got to just take. I have like 2 weeks before my voucher expires, so I gotta get on that. But I'll probably be studying next week for the QSA exam. What advice do you have for learning the blue team side of things? As most cybersecurity stuff is red team focused. Look, a lot of the stuff that's out there can be found like with individualized training. Yes, there is curated blue team training, though a lot of it is kind of introductory level or can be expensive, in my opinion. But I think like if you go out and take a course on Splunk, or you build a home detection lab, or you use some of the open source software that's out there to learn, I think that you can learn a lot of blue team stuff for cheap or for free. There's also blue team YouTube stuff. You just kind of have to dig for it. So it's just like yeah, offensive security is booming right now in the sense that like there's a lot of content creators and there's a lot of instructors in this area, but it doesn't mean that there's not instructors on the blue team side. They just don't get as much love, I feel like, because it's not as hyped. Thank you again, everybody, for all the subs. We get a ton of subs that come through every stream. It's really hard to get to everybody. I think we've had like can't even tell you how many this stream, but Matt Bogenberger, thank you again for another 10 gifted subs this stream. You're up to 75. That's wild. I don't know the math on that, but that's a lot of money. Really, really appreciate it. I know we've met before way back when in South Carolina, and you've been around for quite a while. So I do appreciate the long term support and appreciate you donating gift subs to the stream as well. How do you get access to all the VODs after this training is complete? So again, right now it's only with the PMPT with training or the all access pass. The all access pass is, it's $30 a month right now, and it gets you access to all the courses and the VODs. And we're going to start doing live streaming or private streaming just for the all access pass or membership members, and go from there. So we're also running a discount. If you didn't see the YouTube video today, there's a discount code in the YouTube video that is specifically for the all access pass. So if you're interested in that, check out the YouTube video, do a little OSINT, find the code, and um, go from there. We got about 10 minutes left. So in about 5 minutes, we'll uh we'll raid somebody. Sick in the mind. Actually, I don't have Discord open. As I say, sick in the mind. If you ever have any recommendations, I'm always open because you usually pass me some pretty good ones, and I know you're here today. So my Discord is very frozen, so you might just have to put it in chat. My computer's acting all funny today. Actually, Discord's working now, so we're good. There's no veteran discounts on the All Access Pass. Currently, our veteran discount program is only for the PNPT and PNPT with training. So we do have partnerships, by the way. So if you are a member of VetSec, they have a special coupon code or coupon code repository that we gave them. So you can get some coupons through them that are will work on courses, but publicly we don't have anything. We do have partnerships with some places like that for veterans. You got it, sick in the mind. Thanks, man. What software do I use for notes? I use Notion. Notion for public notes, and then we have a project management software that does everything for us, and we keep our documentation in there, and that's private. Are the courses enough to pass the exam? Yes, that's the intent. Our intent is not to have you fail your exam by any means, or to not be prepared to take your exam. So all the information that you need is within the 5 courses. What's the best red team skill a threat hunter should learn? That's a tough question. I think that's kind of subjective. I would say like understanding the common Active Directory attacks and understanding like there's a lot of good write-ups that are out there for honeypots. Like people will put honeypots up and just watch and see what happens when somebody logs into their server. A lot of times it's a mixture of somebody using Cobalt Strike or a mixture of like some sort of Mimikatz running and doing different types of escalation and credential dumping techniques. So I would try to read write-ups on what's the latest and the greatest from the red team side and what's going on when these honeypots are getting exploited, and then tailor your threat hunting to those kind of attacks. Any suggestions for blue team certificates? Not off the top of my head that I would recommend. I know eLearn Security had one, but their materials have been pretty outdated, and I didn't hear really great things about it. I did the blue team level 1 course. It was just kind of like it was kind of basic. I don't know if it was anything that would really prep you for a job. It was more kind of an introduction to blue team stuff. So, will we offer any blue team cert in the future? Maybe. We've got a couple of certs in the pipeline, so neither of them are specifically blue team related, though one is kind of blue teamish. So, we'll do 2 more minutes. Looks like we may be out of questions. We can start actually with the raid. What's the power of writing blogs and career building? There's a couple of reasons why you write blogs. Well, a few, I would say. One is for memory retention. Honestly, like if you can write a blog and explain it to other people, like what you're learning, that helps you retain the information that you've learned. If you write a blog, that also helps. Like, well, let me backtrack on that. I go back to blog posts and videos all the time to like pull back information on attacks that I've done. So even like when I'm playing in a CTF, I'll go back to a blog that I wrote like 3 or 4 years ago to look up techniques and stuff. So I use blogs that I've written in the past all the time, videos, etc. I think it's really, really useful. From an employer standpoint, you can show your employer that you're passionate by writing blogs. You can show that you're contributing to the community. I think that's really beneficial. And it's one of those things where it helps plant seeds, right? You never know who's going to end up on your blog page. You never know, even if it's somebody who's learning alongside of you, you never know where that person's going to become later on. There's people that I've taught, I'm sure, within the last 5 years that have gone on and are now in senior management. Maybe they were just junior pen testers. Maybe if I ever knock on wood, if I ever ran into a situation where I never had a job again, I would hope that I've planted enough seeds in this, giving back to the community that somebody would be there to, return the favor. And that's really what it is. Like you're helping out the community, you're putting good karma out there, and you're hoping that that returns back to you someday in some way. Advice for somebody who's willing to take the test. I'm assuming PMPT and just feeling scared and not ready. Honestly, have good notes. Make sure you've gone through all the course materials, you've done the labs, and you really understand what's going on. And then you treat the exam like a pen test. If you've done Try Hack Me, if you've done Hack the Box, if you've done other exams that are CTF heavy, throw that out of your mind. Do not take that approach. That is not the correct approach for that exam. All right. We have the retake, the free retake. So if you fail the exam, guess what? You can lick your wounds, reflect, come back when you're ready, and take the exam again. So if you submit a report and you fail, you will get a hint on your next attempt. Again, our goal isn't for you to fail. Our goal is for you to learn and to pass and to prove knowledge that you've obtained. Projection on when those certs might be coming out. Hopefully the cert one will come out before end of the year. Cert two, by cert one I mean new cert, and then cert two should be by March, I would hope. Probably stagnate those a little bit, but we'll see. We're very, very, very. I say this every stream. We're very close to launching our beta for our platform. Once the exam platform's up, then we'll be able to test it out, make sure it works, and then we'll put the new exam on there. But all the details for the new exam are laid out. I think it's I wouldn't say ready to go, but it's ready to go from a curriculum standpoint, and then we just got to like implement that, train our team on how to handle those tickets and stuff, and then just go from there. What topic or box are we doing next week? I think on Wednesday the box we're going to be doing is Butler, and then we'll have one more box. What's the name of it? Let me see. The other one is Black Pearl. So we'll do Butler and Black Pearl next week. Looking at the time on those videos, let's see. Dev was a 25-minute video. It took us 45 minutes. Black Pearl's a 23-minute video, so I imagine that'll take us 45 minutes on a Friday. Butler is a 36-minute video, and Academy was a 45-minute video. So Butler will probably take us the entire time to work through on Wednesday of next week. And Butler is a Windows box, yes. Why do you think other reputable pen test certifications focus on CTFs when there's a difference in objective of a CTF and a professional pen test certification? Or a professional penetration test. I think a lot of it has to do with history, first and foremost. So historically, that's what the exams were. And if you look, if you're first to market, which OSCP really was, um, they dominated industry, and they've got this platform that worked for them, tested things out. The issue in my big deal with OSCP, especially for a long time, is like their courses weren't updated, and they were selling you very, very out of date materials. They've done a good job recently of updating their content. But OSCP at one point was 5 years old. OSCE was 10 years old. The Wi Fi course that they had was well over 10 years old. And they were selling that and marketing that as like top of the line. And then other companies started coming out and they started like more mimicking, right? They said, well, I see the success here. We'll maybe do a little bit of something different and we'll just launch our own certification, but nothing ever really focused on the practical side of things. Um, when I came out with the practical ethical hacking, the whole reason I came out with that course is because nobody was teaching Active Directory. Like literally nobody was out there. When I went and did my first web app or my first internal pen test, I had to look at blog posts and curate information. So practical ethical hacking was such a game changer, I think, in the industry because nobody was teaching Active Directory. Some places were lightly teaching it, but they weren't teaching it in a practical method. Now you see everybody's transitioning to Active Directory. I do honestly think that the practical ethical hacking course had a huge part in that. So there's ways to see, and what I do, and honestly, I'm not innovative at all. All I do, and this is my business advice to anybody who is out there looking to start their own company, look at the things that you wish that you had. If you go through a training and you think something's lackluster, what do you wish that you can improve on? If you go through an exam or certification, what do you wish that you can improve on? This is why I think like we're such a great employer to work for. We pay great. We have great PTO. We have great benefits because those are all the shitty things that I had at my old job. I had bad pay. I had bad benefits. Like we want to make sure like all the things that I hated in my employers or my training or whatever it is, we take and we improve on that. So if you think you can see a path forward where you can improve something, that's what you should be focusing on. That's why like this, I think the PMPT is like one of a kind. There's not many things out there that are practical from this presentation. I'm sure there will be more practical certifications come because again, when you start laying that foundation, other people see that it can be successful. There's going to be duplicates out there or other certifications, and we welcome that. So, and I'm going to go ahead. We are at our time, so I'm going to go ahead and raid. All right. So it has been real as always. I love you guys. We're going to go ahead and raid our individual. I'll see you guys on Wednesday of next week, and we'll repeat this process and do some more learning. So, peace out, everybody. Thank you so much.